Inside me there are two wolves. One wants these goobers to get mega evolutions, the other wants them to have regional variants. And then there's a third, more sinister wolf who is expecting them both at once. But we don't talk about him. Hello everybody, I'm Gary the Motham, and today I'm going to be designing both mega evolutions and regional variants for the 3 starter Pokemon revealed for Pokemon Legends ZA. With mega evolutions returning, it really is a toss-up on which of these two they'll be getting. But seeing as we got 2 Johto starters for this game, it's safe to say Game Freak doesn't really give a darn about the balance of attention these guys get. So Mega Evolutions is the most likely one in my opinion. I don't think anyone expected this trio of starters for Pokemon Legends ZA, right? Chikorita, Tepig and Totodile? I'm willing to bet not a single person guessed this combination. Especially not Chikorita. Out of the remaining Johto starters, Totodile definitely was the most popular, because Chikorita is considered by many as the weakest starter of all time. And I find that such a shame, because Bayleaf and Meganium are some of my personal favorite starter Pokemon. Let's first take a look at possible regional variant for old Meganium over here, shall we? I think everyone and their mother already pointed out that Chikorita in the trailer suddenly had access to the Fairy-type move Disarming Voice, and thus it has to turn into a Fairy-type, right? And I find this quite a compelling argument, even though it's not actual confirmation yet. Especially because Meganium has always been paired with a possible Fairy-type by fans. I don't think it's outright confirmed yet, but I really want to see a Fairy-type Meganium for Legends ZA. Last time I predicted ZA starters, I had an overarching theme of fantasy RPG classes, from D&D specifically. I did this because it harkened back to Kalos' original starter trio. So for Meganium, since it got the move Disarming Voice, I thought it would be fun to turn it into a Fairy-type Bard. Until I remembered that last time I did this, I already turned Infernape into a Fairy-type Bard. So I needed something else. I do still think Meganium will turn into a Fairy-type Bard Pokemon in the game itself, but to avoid repeating my last Legends ZA video, I'll do something else. Meganium's whole gimmick is aromatherapy, not the move but the idea. Aromatherapy is basically the usage of essential oils made from herbs and flowers in order to heal ailments and illnesses. It's not scientifically proven to be valid or anything, but don't tell them that. To reference this concept, I thought it would be perfect to turn Meganium into the healer or priest class. This is the party member that uses magic and spells to heal your team. Equally make-believe. To make Meganium more French, I also turned its flower into a flower of the lily, better known as fleur de lis, the symbol of French royalty. The weird yellow antennae on its head are now shorter and emit a pleasant pink puff of vapor that calms the minds of other Pokemon and heals their bodies as well. It's safe to say that Meganium would be much more support-focused than the other 3 starters. M is for Kalosian Meganium.
Meganium, the herb Pokemon, a grass and fairy type. It releases a pleasant-smelling smoke that can neutralize any form of pain, anger, or any negative emotions. You'll find many Pokemon, such as Primeape, near its habitat to protect it. For decades, the people of Lumiose City have used its special powers to create world-famous perfumes. They're said to be the most attractive-smelling perfumes in the world. It has the ability Overgrow and the hidden ability Misty Surge.
I really love this one's vibes. It's a very pretty form that looks more elegant than the original. I also tried to improve this Pokemon a lot by changing its stats and giving it a better ability, with Misty Surge to set up Misty Train. Let me know if this is an improvement for Meganium, or if I just doomed its singular hyper niche that it had in VGC competitive like 7 years ago or something. For Meganium's Mega Evolution, I decided not to make a new one. Not because I'm lazy or anything, even though I am kind of tired right now, but because just about a month ago, I made a video all about dinosaurs. And in it, I already made a G-Max Meganium, which would be my design for a Mega Meganium as well. I'm personally of the belief that most G-Max forms would make perfectly fine Mega Evolutions as well, so I decided to re-render this design to fit into that of a Mega Evolution.
Meganium, the her Pokemon, a grass and fairy type. Mega Meganium makes the earth tremble with its size and weight. Despite this menacing stature though, it's quite a gentle giant. It means no harm to others, but due to its immense size, it's an extremely dangerous Pokemon. It has a poor sense of balance and is thus very clumsy. It has the ability Overgrow.
Here's a quick summary of the design. It's much taller and more vertical in referencing the size of real-life sauropods. Along its neck, it has fruit-like bulbs that are inspired by those on Mega Sceptile, and the air sac some sauropods were theorized to have. And it also has an all-around bulkier and heavier frame. It's a real big boy. When I originally made this design, I really liked it. And I still think that it looked better with the G-Max rendering, but that's probably because it made it look taller. This Mega Meganium would still be like twice the size of a real Meganium almost, though nowhere near the thunderous heights of a real Thunder Lizard. Sometimes real life is just more impressive than fantasy. The fire starter for Pokemon Legend CA is the black sheep of the bunch, or the burnt bacon of the bunch. Tepig is the only non-Johto starter in this trio, surprisingly enough. While Tepig and its lines aren't my favorite starters, I do think there's quite a lot of potential for a regional form or Mega Evolution. For a regional form of emboar, I struggled to come up with an RPG class. I mean, Fighter or Barbarian or Warlock would make a lot of sense, but I wanted some variety. And if you've seen my last video on ZA starters, you'll know what's coming up after emboar. So I tried to think of a different RPG class instead. I couldn't find anything related to a ranger or a rogue which would fit, and I didn't want to repeat the magic user, such as a wizard, because Meganium's role as a healer already works like this. So instead I went with a bit of an unorthodox class for RPGs. The Tiny Tabletop Engineer. That's such a stupid reference. emboar would thus be based on the Engineer, Architect or Builder class. It's a more uncommon class, but it works for what I'm going for. I'm also basing it on the fantastical race in fantasy, the Dwarf. emboar will be a fiery dwarf boar. I wanted to give it hammers made from the earth's crust, because it will be a ground type. Dwarves are often depicted as blacksmiths, engineers or miners who live underground, so the ground type makes perfect sense. And so do its hammer arms. Obviously, a dwarf-inspired emboar needs an even bigger fire beard than before, and I actually think that this new beard makes it look way cooler than before. It's going to be shorter and stockier than Univant counterparts, but also stronger as well. I changed its Chinese-inspired symbols on its belly into Norse runes, which also resemble the buckle of a belt. In the end, Kalosian emboar is much more samurai-like regional variant, slightly more subtle than the other two, with the first real difference you'll notice being the brown color instead of the black.
I am a dwarf and a digging a hole, diggy hole, diggy hole.
Emboar, the Mega Fire Pig Pokemon.
Wow, that's the dumbest sounding Pokemon category I've ever seen.
A fire ground type. By using its flaming beard to set its hammer arms ablaze, it can bend steel in order to mold it to its liking. It needs a tremendous power to do this. emboar gets easily fired up. If it does so, it can't help but whacking people and Pokemon with its muddy mallets. It likes to dig in the ground. It has the ability Blaze and the hidden ability Sheer Force.
Emboar is originally one of my least favorite final starters, so it's high praise when I say that this regional form is one that I actually really enjoy. He is aware of the hard labor and honest toil that comes with digging a hole, and he's got a dwarven grind set, so I respect him. I never thought I'd die side by side with a friend. Hello everybody, we're halfway through this video, and I'm interrupting to tell you all that if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking and subscribing. My last video got screwed over by the algorithm, sadly. So if you want to see more Mega Evolutions, specifically for unevolved Pokemon, then go check it out. Thank you, and let's continue. Now it's time to Mega Evolve good ol' Emboar over here. I didn't really have a solid idea going into this Mega Evolution. I just kind of messed around in my sketches to come up with a design. In the end, I decided to expand on its iconic flaming beard. Even the people who dislike Emboar have to admit that this flaming beard is really cool, right? But I already turned the flaming beard into a flaminger bearder, so I didn't want to rethread on that idea again. Instead, I decided to turn it into a flowing cape made of fire, which is really cool. These flaming parts of its body will be the main feature I'll focus on, putting its eyebrows on fire too, as well as its beefy fists. Or should I call them porky fists? This way it can finally earn the firefighting type it's so infamous for. I honestly never really saw the fighting type in its design. I in fact feel Samurott would have been much better off with a fighting type than Emboar. But if Game Freak insists, I will deliver. In the end, I'm really happy with the design I came up with. It is such a cool fiery boar now, and it's looking very menacing.
Emboar, the Mega Fire Pig Pokemon.
Okay, for this one it actually works.
A firefighting type. Mega Emboar loses the ability to control the flames inside its body, which now spew out vigorously. As the saying goes, the larger the flames, the shorter the temper. It runs a risk of burning out if it remains in this state for too long. Mega Evolution causes it to lose heat fast, so be careful with your beloved Emboar. It has the ability Blaze.
I admit I don't care for Emboar that much, but it getting a Mega Evolution like this would be super awesome. Definitely not my least favorite firefighting starter, that's for sure. I promised myself last time that in the next Pokemon game I'd be using the Fire-type starter, because I've never really used one on my first playthrough of an original game. They tend to be my least favorites of the trio. But because Legends ZA doesn't technically have new starters, I'm going to keep that promise for Generation 10 instead. Sorry Emboar, but I'm a Chikorita truther. Before we get into the next starter Pokemon, I have another important message for everyone watching. I called it! Ha ha ha! Cope and seethe, Piplup fans! I predicted Totodile would be the starter for Legends ZA. Ha! Your penguin never stood a chance. Apologies. The final of the three starters revealed to us was everyone's favorite crocodile with ADHD, Totodile. An iconic starter Pokemon, which is admittedly my least favorite Johto starter, but I mean, it's Totodile, there's nothing wrong with him, we all love him anyways. Now, I don't think my respect for Totodile extends to feraligatr, admittedly. It never appealed to me that much. Well, that was until a few months ago, when I designed a speculative regional variant for a feraligatr, predicting it to be one of the Legends ZA starters. And now, lo and behold, I love this guy, and I was correct about it too. This incident has definitely elevated this elaborate alligator a level allocated a little higher in my intellect. Behold, the powerful Kalosian feraligatr. I took inspiration from the classic barbarian class, a true staple of many RPGs. It's supposed to look more feral and dangerous, with the spikes on its body draped like stereotypical barbarian clothes. And it gets metal armor to give the brand new steel typing. Just so I can make the Empoleon fans extra salty. It's quite funny looking too. I love his personality. If you need a quick recap of my design process from last time, here's a summary. Of course, while I did already make a regional variant for feraligatr, I still have yet to make a mega evolution for it. So let's get to work on that, shall we? With both emboar and meganium looking wilder and more feral upon mega evolution, I decided feraligatr had to follow suit. I mean, mega feraligatr cannot be the least feral looking of the three, right? That just goes against the entire point of it. So I took inspiration from the Spinosaurus, a dinosaur I've quite frequently mentioned on this channel already.
Don't worry, Dinosaurs Part 3 will come out very soon, I promise.
Not just Spinosaurus, but also Godzilla will serve as inspiration for this monstrous kaiju. The spikes feraligatr originally had on its back will be expanded to form a massive sail-like structure that runs along its spine. This way, when it swims underwater, these spikes would poke out like that one scene from Jurassic Park 3. It was quite a difficult procedure to get feraligatr's shape correct. Unlike most Pokémon, which tend to follow a few easy to recognize geometric shapes for their body, feraligatr is a lot looser with this shape rule. This allows it to look more monstrous in the end though, so I can't complain. I made it more upright standing, yet also more hunched over, in order to look taller and more savage at the same time. And drawing its limbs was a bit of a struggle as well, but I eventually managed. It also gets fin-like spikes on its arms, because that's what the rule of cool dictates I do. I don't make the rules, the rule is just cool. It is a more subtle mega evolution compared to the other two, but I think that works quite well. I could have added more details to the design, and maybe I should have, but in the end I'm pretty happy with how it ended up looking. I don't think it really needed more spikes or scales or plates than what I gave it, because then the design would have just gotten cluttered. Fear the frightening Mega Feraligatr!
Feraligatr, the big jaw Pokemon. A water dragon type. Mega Feraligatr is a truly savage Pokemon. It attacks anything and everything in its vicinity with extreme bloodlust. Do not Mega Evolve your Feraligatr. It's a hyper-aggressive Pokemon. It lurks beneath the water to ambush any prey it can find. If a Mega Feraligatr and a Mega Gyarados were to fight, the land would be left in ruin. It has the ability Sheer Force.
Let me know which of these three mega evolutions you like the most. The Titanic Titanosaurus Meganium, the Blazing Boar Emboar, or the Feral Freak Feraligatr. And also let me know which of these regional variants you like the most. The Pretty Perfumosaurus, the Muddy Blacksmith, or the Barbaric Barbarian. I'm pretty curious to see who you guys like the most. I've seen polls on the 3 Legends ZA starters, and they all seem to turn out very similar, with Totodile winning very easily, and Emboar and Chikorita quite far behind. So I wonder if I've managed to change anyone's minds with this video. Let me know in the comments. Anywho, have another wonderful day. I've been Gary the Muffin. Gotta catch me later.